prior to 1997, some professional colleagues and I had been observing developments and evolution of Nigerian banking system, and we felt that the industry will get to a point where some banks will fall off. And we decided to grow expertise and skills that will help us take advantage of that kind of opportunity if it came up. And just like some people say, it's more like we saw it ahead of time. And it did happen. And when it happened, we saw the NDIC then in Nigeria. They wanted to liquidate over 22 banks. And some friends, again, and I felt that it was time to practice what we had foreseen and what we were preparing for. And that was how we came together and made a bid for the then Crystal Bank, which we later changed to Standard Trust Bank. And the bid was simple. A lot of depositors had lost a lot of money in banks at the time. And we thought what we owed these depositors was to help them make sure they got their monies back, but over a period of time. So we approached the central bank, we approached NDIC, and we made an offer. We also approached the, in quote, SY shareholders of Standard Trust Bank, of Crystal Bank. Remember, the bank was totally gone, so there was nothing to say they had. But we still approached them and said we would like to take over this bank. And the bank was under NDIC news, and that's what was going to liquidate the banks. And so we made an approach and said, okay, let's hear your plans. And I must commend the central bank and the NDIC at the time, and also the then finance minister, Chief Anthony Ani. And then we approached them, and that was how the journey started. It was not really a journey of us putting so much cash into the bank. It was more of creativity, ingenuity, ideas, saying, what some people call debt equity swap. So you have depositors are owed by this bank. We want to assume the debt. And so let the depositors be that we are the ones owing them and not the bank. And so we converted what the depositors had in the bank at the time to equity, and we paid the depositors off over a period of time. A few of them were interested, and they decided to invest in the bank. Majority were not interested, they just wanted out. And even at that, we also got some of them to say, okay, interest forbearance, because they were more interested in getting their principal back. And so that was how the journey started in 1997, and I got appointed the pioneer CEO of the new in quote bank. And then the journey since 1997 has been one thing or the other. And I'm happy that many years down the line, we look back and we're happy that we're audacious and bold to make them move at the time. We're also happy that we had regulators, policymakers who gave us the opportunity, who listened to us, to our ideas. But I recall our first application to the Central Bank of Nigeria at the time, they said the then Director of Supervision, Mr. Elumelu, is still alive. Is one of my mentors today. He said, this is a spurious and bogus offer. Mr. Elumelu was a no-nonsense man. He went on later to become the MD of NDIC for Banking Supervision Department. They turned it down, but we insisted. That's why today in UBA, perseverance, resilience is a core virtue, a core attribute, a core value of ours, because we apply that early on in this journey. So that's how it all started. Going to university, I just thought I wanted to be a businessman because my mom's brother, my mom and his brother were just two of them. So my uncle was a businessman, in Nigeria, and was quite successful at the time. And I was influenced. I thought he was very rich, and also I wanted to be a businessman, but not knowing whether, just a businessman, you know what I mean? Because he was described then as a businessman. And but in the university, that was why I read economics, just to see. But in university, I got more enlightened because I knew more how things operated. And the first degree, I was saying, I just wanted a good job that would give me the start. But when I came to do my master's at Unilag, being in urban or Unilag, a lot happening at the time. And that was the era of new generation banks, a lot happening. Our friends, in banking, our friends, some got jobs in some banks. And so that was all of us who were doing masters at the time. I did masters in economics. Who were doing masters at the time, we just became interested and fascinated. We were interested in working in a bank. New generation bank, not old generation bank, not. And so that was how it all started. And we started applying for jobs in our banks. And I got, yes, at the master's level, it was clear I wanted to work in a bank. And yes, that was how it started. As in then, Santana was a posh car. So they oppressed us in school, I must say. And then we too wanted to become the big boys in future with the brochures, suspenders, white shirt, dark suits, etc. And so whilst working at the bank where I started, I had a very rapid career progression growth. Within 12 months, I was appointed after postgraduate school. I was appointed a branch manager. And so that gave me the opportunity. As a branch manager then, you were a mini CEO. And so I learned very quickly at a very early, I was 26, 27 then. I learned quite a lot. And then that was how we started looking at the banking sector, some friends and I. This sector was growing at a very fast pace, and we didn't think the manpower was there to support the growth of the sector, and that there will be crisis in future. And so let's position ourselves to take advantage of the crisis, and which is what later happened. And then at the time, as it happened, we immediately, saw this Crystal Bank opportunity, approached them, and they agreed. And we just said to ourselves, we must succeed. We must make a generational statement. We need to make this work. We started about 100 of us, and the current GMD of UBA, Kennedy Uzoka, was also part of the team that started the STB. Was there from day one. We went together, we retreated, we strategized, we came up with what we call the 3-tier strategic intent. Tier 1, to turn around the distressed bank and make it viable. Tier 2, to make this distressed bank become one of the top 10 banks in Nigeria in a market that had over 120 banks. And Tier 3, to become one of the top 10 banks in Nigeria. And we put time frames for this. First one time frame was 3 years, 0 to 3. Second one was about to 7 years, and the third one was 7 to 10 years. That 10 years, year 10, we want to be one of the top 3 banks in Nigeria. And so this was it. This was what drove us. Every one of us, the pioneer staff, one knew that, and all the staff who came on board subsequently, they knew this. And that was how it all started. So we turned around this bank. That gave us, put spring on our souls, and we were ready to bounce more because we saw the first intent had been accomplished. Then second intent to become the top 5, 10 banks, we became one of the top 5 banks. Standard Trust Bank then, it was more the top 3 banks, UBA, First Bank, Union Bank, Zenith, Guaranteed. In fact, Standard Trust was 5th before even others. And then we said, okay, so this is achievable. Then let's re-strategize for the 3rd-tier goal, which was to become one of the top 3 banks. And that was how, from ashes of Crystal Bank to Standard Trust Bank, from Standard Trust Bank to United Bank for Africa. Before year 10, this is our 3rd-tier strategic intent, which was to become one of the top 3 banks in the country. We achieved that. We achieved that through the combination of Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa, combination, equity combination, human capital combination, so everything together, and then we created today's UBA. It was quite an interesting and exciting moment for all of us who felt completely accomplished, because recall, when we started, it was a mission to show that this generation of Nigerians and of Africans can make a difference. And that was how it all started. And when we got to United Bank for Africa, the merger was tough, integrating the big old 70-year-old bank with the young Standard Trust Bank, bringing them together and making sure that we retain the agility of Standard Trust Bank in a big institution like UBA. It was not easy, but we thank God for everyone who was on board and were able to make it happen. And having accomplished our 30th strategic intent, the next thing was, what next? And we said we wanted to become the Pan-African Bank. And so from, again, ashes of Crystal Bank, Standard Trust Bank, United Bank for Africa, where we had become the largest financial services group in Nigeria at the time, so through the merger that we orchestrated, which again was the largest financial services combination or merger in sub-Saharan Africa at the time and to date in terms of size. And so in 2005, when this happened, we re-strategized again. At the time, we worked with McKinsey. First time we worked on our own, now we work with McKinsey. And said, how do we become the leading financial services group in Africa? And so we came up again with our 3-tier strategic intent for the new UBA. Tier 1 being solidifying our leadership in Nigeria. Tier 2 becoming a Pan-African bank. And Tier 3 having global presence in key financial centers of the world. Again, we put time frame to it. In 2007, we branched out Ghana, Cameroon, I think, and other countries. Today, I'm happy to say that UBA operates in 20 countries in Africa, Nigeria plus 19 others, from zero at merger of 2005. So that intent of growing Pan-African Bank, we have one on course. Are we the leading Pan-African bank yet? Not immediately, but we are one of the top 3 in Africa at this time. And then in the global arena, UBA is by far #1 African bank, all of Africa. African bank, we are the only African bank that operates in the United States of America with a deposit-taking license, all of US. We have UBA UK, we have UBA in Paris, our rep office, and just recently we got our proven principle to operate in Dubai. So you can see that from New York, London, Paris, and Dubai now, we're dotting the lines, crossing them, and making sure that we are able to improve our capacity and capability to serve African businesses across the globe and to serve Africans in diaspora and to also serve those who want to do business in Africa, to also bring capital into Africa. So looking back, the journey that started 1997 has come to a position where all of us who were part of it and those who joined later and those who are still there today, feel accomplished, but the journey is still beginning because it's a journey in eternity. The merger of Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa was quite a significant one in so many ways. First is consummating the deal. Consummating the deal was not easy. We had a retreat at Standard Trust Bank because we felt we had accomplished our first 2 strategic intents, and the third one we needed to embark on to keep in line with our 10-year plan. And so we had this retreat in somewhere Lekki, Hotel Bellissimo, and then we had different teams. One team was Team UBA, and that was Team First Bank, that was Team Union Bank, and the fourth was Team ETI, EcoBank, and ETI, and Eco International Bank, ECOWAS International Bank, and then Standard Trust Bank. So these 4 groups, we had breakout sessions, they all left, and spent 1 day each discussing for UBA and the Standard Trust to merge, how do we go about it? Union Bank and Standard Trust, how do we go about it? First Bank and Standard Trust go about it. Then ETI and Standard Trust go about it. So And why did we choose those banks, those three banks? UBA, First Bank, Union Bank were the top three banks in the country. So we knew that for us to become one of the top three banks in Nigeria, we either do it by way of acquisition or by way of combination. The growing to become organically to become the top three, one of the top three was not in our viewpoint conceivable at the time. But we thought that by merger or by acquisition we'll get there. And then for you to acquire, there must be willing buyer, willing seller. And also we didn't know if this would come. So we decided, which is what I say to people, it's always good to be clear about your purpose, your destination, your mission, what you want to achieve. It's even better if you put time frame to it. But it's fantastic when you're able to execute it. So we had that dream, that session, and so the Union Bank team presented the First Bank, and we narrowed down. We tried to be pragmatic also, as much as we're quite ambitious, we're also very pragmatic. So we said no, that the chances of a combination with First Bank would be very unlikely because of the ownership structure of First Bank. We said UBA we could explore. Union Bank we thought was most feasible in the circumstance. And then for ETI, we said, ABSA was becoming excited about the rest of Africa, about West Africa. And ABSA had approached us to see if ETI, ABSA, and Standard Trust Bank could merge. And they offered that they would like me to be the CEO. And they arranged for me to meet with the group CEO of Barclays at the time, because Barclays had acquired a significant interest in ABSA. So we put that also on the table. But, for us, it was important that we were able to orchestrate and execute our strategic plan. We didn't think that European Bank would understand the African opportunities. And we're right who made that decision, because they put all kind of offer on the table. So you should be very happy to be part of a Barclays Bank. I said, but we felt also audacious as we were at the time that was also from growing a Barclays Bank out of Africa. And so, but nonetheless, that was one of our four options. And so we looked at these four options and thought that the most viable of the four were UBA and Union Bank. And the next thing was execution. How do we go about it? And so from that meeting, I sent a message to the then GMD of Union Bank, Gordon Obo, that I would like to have lunch with him. And in the course of the week, we agreed a date for lunch at a Ikoyi club, etc. And I sent a message as we were leaving the session. This is a session that started like on Thursday, ended on Sunday. And so we were leaving, so I sent a mail to the then Kim Belosage, the one of the significant shareholders of UBA. And I said, Kim, this Tony Elumelu, I would like an opportunity to see you. He responded. I said, let's talk. I called him. He said he was traveling to South Africa that night. And if I could see him, if we could see when he returned. I said, if you don't mind, Kim, let me just pop in. Again, perseverance. If you want something, hang it. But I said, if I could pop in to see you briefly before your trip, and then when you come back from South Africa, we can have an elaborate meeting. He was gracious enough to agree. He granted me the order. I drove straight to his house. Same day we ended the retreat. And I said to him, Kim, the average of the top three South African banks is bigger than our top three banks put together. That we need to grow capacity from Nigeria to compete. And that I believe, I put the future on the table. I said, I believe the combination between UBA and Standard Trust Bank can take us there. That we know how to run financial institution, but we need the capacity of a UBA. He said, Tony, this makes sense. So let's talk, let's keep talking. Let's keep talking. And so it took us 2 years. There was a day I went to his house, I think in Knightsbridge, and we walked from there to Harrow. Just two of us, just walking, just talking. I didn't know what trying to sign me out to know, etc. So just walking, talking. And then, of course, when you're doing things like you keep it close to your chest. It was just one guy, and I did not want to distract the bank. So the execution, I was just handling it directly, the execution of all of this. And so suffice to say that December 17, 2004, we closed the deal. First was acquisition of significant interest in UBA by Standard Trust Bank, and 2 was merger. So there was acquisition, there was a merger, and that's how the journey started. Now, you would think that just acquiring or merging was like the end. No, that is just the beginning. Because when you acquire, when you merge, critical piece is the integration of the merger. And so integrating Standard Trust Bank and United Bank for Africa was tough. First was the name issue. What name should we adopt? Should it be Standard Trust Bank? Should it be UVA? Or should it be UBA, SCV? All kinds. We had, that's to us the first test. And we had sessions, etc. The way I behave, putting different groups together, group STV, group UBA, group combination of the 2 names. And the emotions were so high, for Standard Trust Bank guys, it was like an accomplishment, conquest. So it should be Standard Trust. Guys who felt should be UBA, should be UBA. All with clear and justifiable reasons, But it was clear that if we wanted pride to come first, we would use Standard Trust Bank. But that would have defeated the purpose of the combination. Because we wanted capacity, we wanted a platform. The history of UBA is huge, rich, well respected. Standard Trust Bank, great but new bank, okay? And banking is a conservative institution, a profession. So that was how we decided. I told guys, I said, guys, let's go with UBA. It didn't go down well with my team, but finally we all agreed that should be UBA. And so that was the first test. Second was technology. What technology should we use? UBA then was using FlexCube, I think, and Standard Trust Bank was using Fineco. So some banks use FlexCube, some banks use Fineco. They both have advantages and disadvantages. So it's a question of, I got back to Arnold who was past CEO of UBA Group, and I said, Arnold, I need advice from you because I do it. For me, you can always seek advice from anywhere. And now, if you make the right decision, nobody will remember who gave you advice, but it's you that applied it, that takes the credit. And that's why I say to my colleagues today, be humble, seek for advice, but be ready to make a decision and don't keep seeking advice forever. And so we sought advice. Then it was not enough. We had to fly in Mackenzie's global consultant on IT. He came to Nigeria in the morning, flew out that night because you can't afford to keep him in Nigeria for 2-3 days. And we had a session. I put the UBA, then UBA IT head, to be in charge of the Standard Trust Bank group, to be in charge of the team that would advocate for us to use Fineco, which was Standard Trust Bank package. I put the then head of IT in Standard Trust Bank to be the head of the team advocating for us to use UBA FlexCube. And we had fun. And then we had the Mackenzie consultant, certain doctor and co, and the other Mackenzie partners. And so this team gave us reasons why we should use Fineco, the other reason why we should use FlexCube. And it was quite clear, and we adopted Fineco. That was the third one was getting old generation bank, so to speak, and new generation bank, culture, integrating culture. And I must tell you, it took, in fact, it's only recently that I can say that we have been able to merge the cultures. Culture is the toughest part of it all. You don't get it right so easily because this is about human beings. It's about retraining people's habits, ways of doing things. In fact, corporate idiosyncrasies and mannerisms, changing those things, it's almost impossible. But to us, it was a task that we must accomplish. And characteristic with who we are, we tried and we succeeded. And keep in mind that we did not just merge and remain static. We merged, we were integrating, and we were expanding. Our UBA Africa expansion started in 2007, 2006, late 2006. So as you're integrating the big institutions, you're also rolling out new ones. And we acquired the bank, the biggest bank in Burkina Faso. We acquired the third biggest bank in Benin Republic. And we're moving in that fashion. It was not easy. And that, you see my gray hair? That's when my gray hair started. My elder brother, who is 7 years older than me, doesn't have gray hair. Well, I have gray hair. That is part of what we got from the combination of STB, UBA. So in a nutshell, I would say, looking back, the journey that started in 1997, I'm happy we embarked on that journey. It has a toll on us. For me, as a family man, though, I try to make sure I balance things. I try to make sure my family side did not survive. In that process, I was also growing a family, having my kids and co. So, but everything came together, the work, the family, and it all. And I recall then, like Kennedy, the CEO, who was there from the onset to date, and that's why we were all looking. We knew it was a matter of time for him to become the CEO of UBA because he's seen it all from start, and that's also why we believe that he has all it takes to take UBA to the next destination, because he's been part of everything we have done. Quite a number of people, still in the system today. I look at them, I'm so excited that they're still in the system. You look at Kaide Shola he was there. He defected, as I say it briefly. He came back. Oliver Lauba, Muyiwa Akinyemi. These are great pioneers, and so many of our ladies who are bankers today in the bank. You see people who have done 20 years, 25 years in the system from Standard Trust Bank, from the old UBA, people like Mikey Loba and co. I mean, it's exciting seeing all these people around, seeing that we're all still together, and we look forward. I look forward to even second generation of these STB people, second generation of the STB UBA people, third generation and co running UBA, because that's what is exciting. Mike Osuji, who works with me, Harold, all these guys who've all been in trenches together, we all started together, and I'm happy that they're still very much around. My drivers, my security guys, personal security guys, I'm very passionate about everyone who has been part of our journey from start to date, because as I say, but for them we won't be who we are. They make the difference, Easiest thing to do is to lead. More difficult thing is to do. And these guys, all of our guys at UBA, I doff my hat for them for what they do. Looking back and looking forward, first looking back, I like that out of ashes, so to speak, we've created today's financial services group that's called United Bank for Africa. We've taken it to the next level. Today, we operate in 20 countries in Africa. That dream of creating a Pan-African bank, that dream of helping to intermediate, and that dream of helping to support the industrialization of Africa through the financial services play, that dream of helping to orchestrate and improve payments across Africa, that dream of helping to support our small and medium-scale enterprises, and most importantly, that dream of integrating Africa through our people. I mean, you have someone from Burkina Faso who is part of UBA Group, someone from Kenya, all imbibing the same culture of excellence, same culture of enterprise, same culture of execution. That's what we need in Africa. So I look back and I say, we've done well in this area. But for me, it's good to celebrate the past, but more importantly, it's the future. Because today's UBA, we didn't start it. People handed it over to us. We must hand over a stronger UBA to others. So I look forward, to the future where UBA 1 will help further than we have ever done to support Africa in the area of industrialization, support Africa in the area of infrastructure, massive deployment of infrastructure on the continent, helping to further simplify payments, helping to create jobs directly through the employment UBA provides others, but more importantly, indirectly, through the support for small and medium-scale enterprises who will help to create the jobs that we're in their need of in Africa, to power people out of poverty. So I look forward to UBA that's not just a financial services group, but UBA that means and makes meaning and has relevance to the ordinary African, average African, a UBA that they will say, but for UBA, I would have been able to put a shelter over my head. But for UBA, this my business idea would have gone to grave with me. But for UBA, my children would not have been able to go to school. That is the UBA we want to have. The UBA that is relevant and strategic, significant, and real to the ordinary man. That's what we want to see. And I think with the crop of people we have in UBA, the board members, extremely committed people, selfless people, our staff, all levels. We quarrel, we have our own disagreements in-house, as is expected. But we are glued by that bigger mission, that bigger aspiration to be meaningful to the ordinary African. Unless and until we accomplish that, we will not go to sleep.